One thing that makes Twin Peaks loved by so many people is its overwhelming amount of obscure details, the ones that you're likely not to notice at all, but also ones that do have a great significance for understanding the whole series. One of such details that's often overlooked is the show inside the show Invitation to Love. It only appears for a few seconds in each episode of season 1, starting with episode 2. At first glance, this soap opera has nothing remarkable about it, rather than being a kind of background to underline that Twin Peaks inhabitants are so much human that they also like to enjoy a little bit of brain rot after a hard day's work. In terms of its story, Invitation to Love is full of cliches drawn from soap operas of the time. In it we've got a femme fatale type of woman, a hooligan type of man, a rich guy, as well as a love triangle between all of them that turns into a conspiracy to take away the rich guy's money. The plot is so banal and simply lame that we as viewers are most likely to just skip that part because it's just like any other soap opera ever created. However, if we do pay attention to it, the story does start to click into place. Besides being a soap opera about a conspiracy, it also turns into a kind of mirror reflecting the events and characters of Twin Peaks itself. Just a few examples. Leo, after getting shot, watches an episode of Invitation to Love with a character getting shot. Montana, the hooligan, seems strangely similar to Hank, the husband of Norma Jennings. Montana, just as Hank, spends a lot of time away from his wife, probably escaping the law. Two characters of Invitation to Love, Jade and Emerald, are played by the same actor, Erica Anderson, which closely resembles the duality of several characters of Twin Peaks. An obvious resemblance is Laura Palmer and Maddie Ferguson, two sisters played by Sheryl Lee, but the duality of Jade and Emerald also pretty much resembles the duality of Laura Palmer herself. Jade, a kind and caring woman, is very similar to the good side of Laura Palmer, the volunteer at Meals on Wheels and the homecoming queen at her school. Emerald, on the other hand, is an evil woman who's ready to do anything to achieve what she wants, very similarly to the dark side of Laura Palmer, a prostitute and a drug addict. So Invitation to Love is an obvious reflection, and I would even say satire, of Twin Peaks itself. It mocks the whole genre of soap operas and allows the characters of Twin Peaks to see how ridiculous they sometimes are.
You show 'em shit.
And I could finish this video at that. However, that only explains the relation of the characters of Twin Peaks to the characters of Invitation to Love. It doesn't explain what we as viewers of Twin Peaks can make of watching Invitation to Love being inside Twin Peaks. The thing is, the fact of Invitation to Love being a show inside a show is an example of a centuries-old literary and artistic technique called mise en abîme. The idea of mise en abîme is when a copy of a work of art or a part of it is placed inside the work itself. One example of it is Shakespeare's Hamlet, where Hamlet arranges a play called The Murder of Gonzago, which strangely mirrors the events of Hamlet the play. With a play inside a play, Hamlet meant to create a kind of representation that would provoke Claudius to realize his own guilt for murdering Hamlet's father. Another example is Don Quixote, where in Part 2, Sancho Panza tells Don Quixote that the first part of a book about them is now published and widely read by the Spanish folk. Jorge Luis Borges had an ingenious interpretation of what this technique actually means. In one of his essays, he writes, "Why does it disturb us that the map be included in the map and the 1001 Nights in the Book of the 1001 Nights? Why does it disturb us that Don Quixote be a reader of the Quixote and Hamlet a spectator of Hamlet? I believe I have found the reason. These inversions suggest that if the characters of a fictional work can be readers or spectators, we, its readers or spectators, can be fictitious as well." It seems that the exact same idea applies to our discussion of Twin Peaks and Invitation to Love. The actual reason why one would be included in the other is to make us, viewers, as uncomfortable as possible, make us think about our own place inside reality, because if the characters of Twin Peaks can be watching Invitation to Love and not realizing it's a bloody satire of themselves, then how can we be so sure that Twin Peaks is a detective story that has nothing to do with our own reality? About that, David Foster Wallace was writing that Lynch's true and only agenda is just to get inside your head. He sure seems to care more about penetrating your head than about what he does once he's in there. And that's exactly right. David Lynch leaves us with some very uncomfortable questions, but without a single answer. He shows us gaps inside reality that we have no way of bridging, and that is what makes his movies some of the most lasting pieces of art ever made.